Welcome to Mike on Much. I am your host, Mike Veerman. I'm here with my friend and trusted producer, Max Kerman. We are here with our pop culture aficionado, Shane Cunningham. And we are also here with intern Erica, who is on the ones and the twos. We are recording right now, only hours before tip-off, Max, of Game 1 of the NBA Finals for the first time ever in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. We're doing this at Dan Hamilton's apartment in Toronto. There's like a loose vibe. We're all very excited for this.
Yeah, it's awesome. We're in Dan's building. He's got his projector with the pregame stuff going on. Your brother Greg just joined us. Yeah, the city's alive right now.
Brother Greg makes it sound like we're in like a cult or something.
Yeah, Brother Greg.
Brother Greg.
And you're wearing a Fun Guy shirt.
Yeah, this is a big win.
How did you
me.
get that? Did someone?
Ash knows some of the New Balance people, and as soon as the thing came out, I thought I was being clever. I'm like, oh, maybe we can get one of those New Balance Fun Guy shirts. And then we immediately heard back saying those sold out in 15 seconds, and if you want one, it might take like 2 weeks. But they showed up, and Mike D and I have it, and big winner on Instagram. I'll say that much is that people really like that shit. Like Kawhi is king of the world right now.
He's a legend. He's a living legend at the moment on the eve of the NBA Finals. This has been such an exciting time in the city. Obviously, we talked about it in the last pod.
We missed you, Shane, by the way.
We did miss you. Are you feeling better?
A little bit. I'm like 80%, but it was a good episode.
Oh, you liked it?
You listened.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. I had some notes, but I don't have to say them. Just because I was a little pissed at Cody and Bethan.
Why?
Well,
he threw you under the bus.
yeah, that's why. He thought he was a cool guy, and he said, Shane used to be funny, but he's not funny anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like, am I really not funny, or is it that we're talking about abortions every other week now? Is it like the format of the show has changed a little bit into a less comedic thing? So I don't think it's me. I'm still funny.
Fair enough.
But I thought, Eric, we haven't talked to you since that episode. Great job hosting the dating game
Thank
or the
you.
newlywed game.
Thanks, Erica.
And Shane, amazing. You produced the hell out of that segment. You set her up with all the questions, and you were like a shadow producer from afar.
Well, Erica, I knew she could. She's very good at that stuff, and very good editor too. So she edited all this Boeing sound effects, and it had a very '90s Howard Stern vibe, which I love.
Yeah.
Thanks.
What's also exciting is Shane, you were staying in Toronto tonight.
I am.
You're going for it.
Yeah.
We're watching Game 1.
I know.
9 o'clock tip. That's late.
Yeah. I was almost going to this game tonight. No, fuck, it was Game 2. Shit, I forgot. Should I tell the Papa
Tell
Shot
the story.
thing?
This is an exciting story. Max doesn't even know
I
the
know this
story,
one.
or Erica.
Okay, so I obviously...
Or Brother Greg.
I reached out to Burchell for tickets, and I knew the answer, and I knew how he was going to answer it, too. And I was like, it's doubtful, but any chance you could help old Shanny Boy? He's like, absolutely not. Impossible. There's no way in the city. And I knew he just loves it because he knows he's going to be at the game, Instagramming and stuff. And then I talked to you, and then you told me it was impossible.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, maybe it's true. But I still thought I could figure out a way to get to the game. So I was going to contact Dubis was one of my options.
You're going to go there.
No, I wasn't going to, but I was thinking about it because my stepmom is best friends with his mother-in-law, and she's been going
Kyle
to some of
Dubas,
the- getting
general
his
manager,
tickets and stuff. Anyway, there was a Papa Shot competition going on in Toronto City.
I got a text from Danica, who was walking Winnie over at near King Street and Peter, and they had put right by Cali Love this random Papa Shot up. So she sent me a photo and she said, "Hey, there's a Papa Shot here, and whoever gets the high score gets tickets to Game 2."
And famously amongst our friends, Shane is the top
He's
Papa
amazing
shopper.
at it.
I'm the Papa Shot master.
I immediately go, "Yo, text." I think I texted you. You're already out, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Check this out." And you were like, "The lineup's got to be crazy." I go, "It's actually not," because she sent photos. I'm like, "You should pop by here, Papa Shot," and I'll let him take it from there.
So I was really considering not doing it because although the picture you sent me, the lineup wasn't that big, I was like, word is out, it's going to be huge now. But I'm like, I'll just pass it by. And by the way, I have been practicing my Papa Shot lately. And in fact, on my birthday, remember the Dave Grohl thing? I was headed to the arcade.
Oh,
I
yeah.
only went to play Papa Shot. And I don't just play once or twice. I'll play all night and totally monopolize the machine. And I complained to the arcade I go to is called Tilt, and the Papa Shot wasn't functioning properly. So I had a huge complaint to the management at Tilt, and they kind of laughed me off. So I
wonder why.
I publicly Instagrammed them.
I
and
saw
said,
your
It's my
Instagram.
35th birthday. I'm alone, and the Papa Shot's not working.
The funny thing is, though, the photo you posted, it literally is an empty arcade, and I
Yeah.
almost responded to you like, "This is the saddest birthday I've ever
Well, that's the
seen."
way I wanted it to seem, so
Right.
they'd feel really bad for me, and I thought they would rectify it, knowing that the employee ignored me. Anyway, I passed the Papa Shot lineup, and I'm like, okay, this is maybe a 45-minute wait. I'm on my lunch break. I can justify this. So I sign up, and I'm just waiting there, and I'm like, there's I don't know if this is racist to say, but Asians are very good at Pop-A-Shot. Like, can I say that?
There's like a leaderboard. There's a scoring board.
And you notice
And
that
there was a bunch of them in front of me in line. Can I say that? Is that bad to say? Like, it's like it's popular among the Asian
complimentary.
community.
Yeah, maybe that's maybe that's a
Pop-A-Shot.
Pop-A-Shop is popular amongst the Asian community,
Right.
And therefore they are often at the top of the leaderboard.
So
In your
yes.
opinion, just frame it as
In my opinion, Gary
it.
Tang got 300 points, and that's almost an unbeatable score.
We're keeping all that.
Yeah. And then there was there was like Karen Long or something, and then there was two Wongs were on the board.
Yeah.
I had a don't make it right joke, but I'm like, I'm not gonna say it.
I like that you've memorized all these names from the leaderboard.
So I'm like, okay, this has to be really hard to even come close to the 300. But I'm like, I'm gonna give it my best shot. And I get up. I'm watching how the Pop-A-Shot works, because some are just immobile, and some, after you make it to around the net, starts to move. And it does matter if it moves from left to right or right to left, because that first shot, when it starts moving, you have to anticipate the move and get that first shot in, because if you miss it, it can throw off your whole rhythm.
Okay.
So I notice it goes to the left. So I'm like, okay, after the first round, the first move, the net moves to the left.
Okay.
Anyway, game starts. Like, Jack Armstrong's there, like all the halftime people.
Hello!
This is a Raptor sanctioned event too. This wasn't some like carnival setup. There's an announcer dude there too, by the way. And anyone who knows me knows I hate announcer dude hype men, because they make me
Like
very
N1
nervous.
mixtape type guys.
Oh.
Like if you went to
I'm like,
Rucker
all
Park.
right, let's give this guy a hand. So I'm like, fuck this. So I put on my noise canceling headphones. I wear my sunglasses, and I just keep a straight
You're
face.
like that weird guy at the poker tournament.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was the vibe. And I keep a straight face the entire time, so they don't fuck with me. So they know I'm not like a
You're not into
ha-ha
that.
jovial guy. So I hit the first 20 shots in a row.
Whoa.
And I can't hear anything. Like, you can kind of hear the crowd going a little bit crazy, but it's not overwhelming. It's not making me that nervous. And then he's like, he's got to get 200 to make it to the next round. I'm like, oh, shit. So then I hit the shots. I get to 200. And then in the game, it unlocks another round, which you can actually get close to 300. But then he's like, can he miss? And they're because I haven't missed a shot yet. And then I missed 7 shots in a row. I start freaking out. I'm like, fuck. And then I start like feeling like I'm a total failure. So then I'm like, okay, now I'm I'm the underdog. So that gives me confidence to kind of score again. Anyway, I ended with 260 something. And I'm like, oh shit, I didn't get the 300. But as I'm walking off, they're like, oh, stick around, give us your name. They're like, you're top 3.
Oh.
I'm like, do I get something? They go, maybe. I'm like, is it tickets? They go, I don't know. So I'm like, holy shit, maybe top 3. You win Raptors tickets, and then I can show Birchall, haha, I still figured out a way to get in. And there's only an hour left, and they cut it off at 2. But the guy punching in my score, he forgot what I had, and he's like, I think you got 253, which tied me for 3rd place. I'm like, no, I got 257. He's like, okay, I'll change it later. So I take a picture of the screen, and it's 250.
As you do.
Yeah, so I take a picture just to prove it. I'm tied for 3rd at this, but he's going to change it so I'm actually in the lead for 3rd, or the sole person in 3rd. I go back to work. I tell Mike all about it. I'm like so amped. I'm like, Mike, this is amazing. Thank you so much. I might win Raptor tickets. He's like, okay, I'm going to come back with you when they email you. Maybe
I
there's
wanted to
another
film
round.
it for the pod. Like I was like, if you're going into like some sort of playoff, I need to film it.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. It won't go to a playoff. Trust me, it's not going to happen to that. Even if I do make it to the next round, they're going to set it up for a later date. So anyway, I go back to the Pop-A-Shot around 2 to see if I've won. And I'm like, holy shit. My score is still there. And they've changed it to 257. So I'm the lone guy in 3rd place. So I walk up to the thing. I take my picture. As I'm taking my picture, they're letting 5 more kids into the area, even though it's past 2 p.m. That's a bullshit rule. You can't do that. When it's cut off at 2, if you're not past the velvet rope, any self-respecting contest would cut it off right there, right? Right? Though if you were running it, because this is a big thing. So as I'm taking the picture, can I say race again, or is that... There's a person, another person comes up, and he's a young kid wearing a jersey, a Raptors jersey, and he starts shooting like fucking awesome. He's very cocky. He's scoring every basket, and he's like dancing in between
He's into
shots.
Steph Curry
He's like
thing.
a Pop-A-Shot expert, and he ended up with 273, which put him to 2nd, the other person into 3rd, and bumped me to 4th.
Because they let him in.
Because they let him in, but at least I got the picture of me with the 257 score. Even though I actually got a 260 score, which would have been irrelevant anyways, I still would have been bumped down.
Oh man,
Fourth place. But I found out what you actually get. If you came in first place, you got 2 Raptor tickets and $1,000 to Sobeys. If you came in second, you got $500 to Sobeys. If you came in third, you got $200 to Sobeys.
okay, so you wouldn't have gotten it anyway.
A $200 gift certificate. Anyway, they ended up giving me a $5 gift certificate to Sobeys.
$5?
Yeah.
What are you gonna buy?
I don't know. Candy or something. I don't know. Anyway, that's my story.
Damn.
That's a harrowing tale, man.
But
Almost
I thought
got
it would
into
be so cool because even you weren't going to be getting into the playoffs. I'm looking at you, Max.
Yeah.
And now I found out it was all bullshit when you're like, I can't even get in.
No, I know. I honestly was
No,
planning.
he said I can't get you in.
Well, I spent all morning trying to figure out where we're going to watch it, and everybody wants to watch. Everybody and their grandmother wants to watch this game, and so I was like, "How are we going to find a bar?" And then we called around a bunch of bars. Everything is booked up, so I was getting actually really stressed out. I was like, and I kind of felt responsible. I was. Dan Hamilton's looking at me. He's smirking. No, I did. No, I called Mark, who runs a couple of the bars. Yeah, and then but basically, we were at a couple bars last night, and they were all booked up. Anyway, the point is,
You worked your ass off.
I worked my ass off, and I was getting stressed out. And I was like, "Fuck, where are we gonna watch this?" And like, I know my dad was curious about where we're gonna watch it
For game one, yeah.
for game one. And then I got a text from our label head, Jeffrey, saying, "I got an extra ticket. Do you want to come?" And I said, "Okay," and then I don't have to worry about anything. So I'm going tonight. Not my problem.
So Max is going to game one tonight. So we were all in this text group figuring out what we're going to do tonight. Shaney's in town. Our buddy Al's like, I got rid of the baby. We're like, yeah, like camaraderie after what I said in the last pod, but how it meant so much to watch with your friends. Al goes, I'm in. What are we doing tonight? And Max goes, hang tight in the text group. So I'm like, oh, Max is going to come through. He's got like a whole booth booked at like the rec room or somewhere. He's coming through. 5 minutes later, I'm out, guys, going to the game. Sorry.
That was the hang tight.
That was the hang tight.
I'm getting myself sorted.
I was like, what? And so I turned to Shade at the office and I go, Max is out. He's like, what? He's like, what did you say? I'm like, nothing. I'm too furious. I'm like, I can't even. I'm seething with jealousy.
I did run into you this afternoon. I could tell you were like you weren't that happy to see me.
The minute he came walking, we were with the baby. It was me and Danica. He comes walking up.
I got a big smile on my face.
A big smile. And I just went, you famous bastard. And then I went, I'm happy for you. Seriously, man. And it was, and Danica and we all exploded laughing.
Yeah, it was good.
I am happy for you.
Yeah.
You're a true Hoops fan. I'm happy you're going to be in the building tonight.
That's true. I'm not a bandwagon fan. I have been a fan, as we know, since 1985.
I'm just jealous. That's
Yeah.
all.
But also, I mentioned this to you this afternoon. In your soliloquy last episode, I do love watching with you guys too. So I don't think you can lose in this situation. The city is alive right now.
Would you prefer not to be at the game?
No, it's kind of a win-win.
Let's not get crazy, man.
No. I mean, I would have just the only reason why I like going to the game is that like it was stressing me out where we were going to go watch it.
Yeah,
So
you're
I don't
out
have
of
to worry
this
about
like
that.
snake pit of trying to find a table to watch this game
Yeah.
at. And then a bunch of us are going to be at game two, which will be really fun.
which is awesome.
But they're making you work for your seats.
Yeah, for game two. Basically, it's not announced yet, but our Kells are going to be like, hyping up the crowd
This is going
in
up
Jurassic
to
5.
What's the announcement like
I
for
got
that?
No, but we're not
People were
performing.
going to go to Jurassic before, but then it's like Max and Mike
Featuring
Frankels.
Arkells, game one.
Like who? We're gonna be hanging out before the game, and Mike D and I are gonna go. I was in this building yesterday because Dan had a commitment and he needed someone to take Addie out for a quick pee.
Addie's a dog.
Yeah,
That's his infirm father. Yeah.
Addie's, and so I get into the elevator and it's me and two other dudes, and then another guy who looks kind of familiar. And because he's 6'10" and has lots of tattoos, he's an African American guy. I was like, "This is Eric Moreland on the Raptors," and I've seen him before around this building. And so, because I had normally, I don't think he'd want to talk to any of us in the elevator, but because I have this adorable puppy, he's kind of looking at the puppy, and then I just like look up to him and I just say, "Hey, buddy, you excited for tomorrow?" And then he kind of grins. He looks up. He's like, "Yeah, man, I'm really excited." And then I'm like, "Yeah, the whole city's just so happy right now." He's like, "Yeah, me too." And then I'm like, "I think I'm going to game 2. He's like, "Oh, that's so cool. My parents are coming up." And I'm like, "Where are you from?" He's like, "Houston." I'm like, "Well, I'm glad they're coming up in June and not February." He's like, "Oh, I know." And then we left. It was a nice, sweet little moment with Eric Moreland.
Oh, wow.
One of the guys on the Raptors.
Speaking of the Raptors, the city is a buzz. CP24 had like sort of 24-hour coverage. They had a camera outside of the hotel where the Golden State Warriors are staying. So they'd have live feed when like Steph Curry and Kevin Durant would come out of the hotel, and you go, man, you realize how big NBA stars sort of transcend sports fame in a
One
lot of ways.
second.
The dog is eating a squishy toy. And so they had this sort of like camera outside of the hotel. But what they did was they ended up sort of tipping off the general public to where the Warriors are staying. The Warriors are staying at the St. Regis here in Toronto. This is not news or anything like that. And our good friend, a friend of the pod who books a lot of our guests, Greg Stewart, sent us a hilarious article today saying that last night at 3 a.m, this guy went outside of the St. Regis and he lit a ton of fireworks so that they went off to wake everybody up. And so there's this video of the guy setting off the fireworks, all like, and he jumps in the getaway car and they're like, go, 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 go. And right at the end of the video, the guy goes, fuck Steph Curry, which made me laugh. And I was like, that's a good, innocent fun, I think.
No, it's not.
Come on.
Good question.
That's horrible. That
Is
he
it
did
illegal?
That ruins our.
It's illegal, yeah.
Fireworks in a public space. And what if he did wake up the team, and then we end up winning on some weird ass technicality or something?
But I think that in the grand tradition of like fans sort of like trying to mess with players on their team, like you hear weird stuff like Kobe got food poisoning in Sacramento before Game 6, I believe, or Game 7, because they felt like the burger at the hotel, they were messing with him. That stuff is obviously way out of bounds. I think trying to make like a noise complaint, like fireworks are dangerous, but let's say they had brought like 50 people and they chanted outside at 3 a.m. I just think there's some gamesmanship to it that like involves fandom that I tend to smile at. It's probably not ideal, but I enjoy it on like a there's like a level of kind of gamesmanship that I don't mind with this stuff.
It's all entertainment. It gets weird when people like start being violent or vicious
100%.
or like really mean. It's like when they start like bringing up stuff about like their family members or stuff.
Oh,
it's like that's
yeah.
bad.
So you're pro fireworks.
Fireworks is a kind of an interesting one because it's like there's a sense of danger there
In the city, yeah, it's a
that
fire
you're
hazard.
like, okay, is there? Because I'm sure who knows what kind of security issues that any of these NBA
I
players
love
have.
it in like a way.
Let's
If
say-
Will Ferrell did it in like an old school-esque movie,
Yeah.
then it's very funny.
Let's say
In real
somebody
life, though,
let's say
no.
they got a drum line and showed up at 3
See,
a.m.
that would be hilarious.
See, that to me is fine. So I guess I'm saying there's an element of danger to the fireworks that I'm maybe not on board with. But if they got like a drum line from a local high school and they showed up at 3 a.m. and literally let it rip, that I think would be hilarious.
Yeah, what would be other funny?
You feeling that one or?
I don't know. I like our Canadian image not being tarnished.
No, but I think there's something Canadian about us doing it in a kind of playful way.
Well, even all the
He's
comments are
boring.
like, "This is lame. You're fucking messing with our image." Like, no one's supporting this in the YouTube comments.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh no.
Okay, what would be an example of a
Sure
way
they're
to
not all
mess
from
with the
California?
Warriors?
No,
that-
it's all Canadians. Like,
Your idea of every bar in Toronto showed the Warriors drink for free the night before.
that is an amazing, genius idea.
So
That's
the-
like Quine and Dine.
Yeah, there's this great initiative by Raptors Republic called Quine and Dine to re-sign, and basically any restaurant that basically if you put a sticker in front of your door, if Kawhi shows up, he eats for free at your restaurant. It's an effort to re-sign him. It's a really funny initiative. All the restaurants are jumping on board. It's this communal thing. And we were talking, Dan, myself, and Greg wrote for Wings last night. We were talking about a really funny initiative would be Warriors drink for free anywhere in Toronto.
I love it.
So basically, that's the campaign. Obviously, they're not going to take him up on it, but it would be amazing if Draymond Green's like, actually, we could get a free drink. You want to go get one?
And then it's on him.
yeah, exactly.
Well, I feel like there's like legendary stories like back in the 70s and 80s of like so and so being like a part like former teammates facing off against each other and one like getting his former teammate drunk to fuck him up for the next game.
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing. I think that's really fun and playful. What would be a good one for the Warriors besides because I think that's pretty good.
Yeah,
but
Warriors
they're
drink
so
for-
disciplined.
Warriors drink for free in Toronto during the series. Yeah, I mean, we could come up with something.
Yeah.
Like a good prank.
Like a good
Or
playful
like a
prank.
marketing initiative, like something that could be funny or go
Yeah.
viral.
Yeah. Steph Curry, he lived in Toronto, and of course the Canadian media is all over that narrative because he was in Toronto when his dad played here for the Raptors, and there's kids that that are my age or a year or two younger that played against Steph Curry in local basketball leagues. His wife Aisha, her family's from Markham.
She's born here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's in a music video that takes place at Central Tech, which is the high school my mom teaches at. But she's like 11 years old in it.
You know who the rapper is in it?
Oh, is it
It's Master T's nephew.
nephew? Yeah, that's right.
That's an old school Much reference. He was a VJ back in the day.
Yeah. So man, it's just.
There's a lot of connections.
A lot of connections. I'm looking at these highlights behind you, Mike, and it's awesome to see actually Leo Routens and Rod Black, Rod from the 1995 kickoff telecast, and they're still doing it. That's
Yeah.
pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah, man.
There's so many nice little memories that are now popping up because of this finals appearance.
Very exciting. Okay,
Yeah.
before the series starts, before we get off Raptors, for the listeners who are like, let's move on.
No,
Predictions.
Fuck you. No, this is good. This is good. I stand by this segment.
Fuck Steph Curry. What are your predictions for the series, Maxie?
It's funny. I'm more confident in the Raptors than any of the Cavs teams that faced off against the Warriors. I like our roster and the way everyone's playing is I'm pretty optimistic about it. I mean, it's crazy to say, oh, we'll win, But I think everybody's like drunkenly happy right now that we're all like, we can win. Sure, Raps in 6. Or,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Well, Mike's got a crazier prediction than
Yeah.
that.
So you're saying Raps in 6?
Yeah.
Erica?
I agree. I think if the Raps can take it all, I think the shitty part is that I don't think it'll be at home.
You think
Game
they'll do it
6
on
is
the road?
in. Yeah, I just think that'll be like the one like downfall to it. I say 6.
I think it would be very difficult for them to win a game
I know
6
nothing about basketball.
at Oracle because it's the last game that will be played at Oracle. And so the Warriors would desperately want it because they're leaving Oakland and going to San Francisco next season. It's a big subplot. Shaney, what's your prediction?
Oh, sadly, I predict Warriors in 5.
Wow.
Yeah, fair
And
enough.
we're
I
going to
hope
lose.
this is a reverse jinx, my man.
My prediction is we're going to lose a couple without KD, and then when KD comes, we're not going to win any.
Interesting.
Mike, what do you?
This is my bold prediction, and I admit that I might be basking in the glow of homerism, and I've never tasted a drug quite like going to the finals before, the Eastern Conference champions. My prediction is that the Raptors are going to win in 5. They're going to win the first 2 games at home. They're going to steal one in Oakland, and they're going to come home and they're going to close it out in
I
5.
love this prediction, by the way.
Yeah, and
I
by the
love
way,
this.
you did after game 3. No, after game 2
When they
in the
lost both in Milwaukee.
series, you said it doesn't matter. They're going to win the next 2.
I said we're coming back to Milwaukee tied 2-2.
Yeah.
I put that in the group. I try to put positive vibes out in the world because I can tend to lean negative.
Mm-hmm.
Worst case scenario, I'm changing that up, and it served us well for this playoff run.
Well, let's ask Greg. He's the ultimate cynic. What do you think?
Brother Greg.
Brother Greg!
Brother Greg. So, what I'm thinking about this old
20
series
minutes
here-
later.
I'm gonna say Raps in 7, baby.
Whoa.
We're going full 7.
Jeez.
Raptors at home. Can't be beat.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love
You
it.
heard it here first, everyone.
Dan, your thoughts?
Dan, you have to get on the mic if you're going to share it.
I'm with Brother Greg. Raps in 7.
Whoa! And Dan's an analytics guy. He studies the numbers.
How about winner gets $100?
Who pays?
Yeah,
them?
who?
You all pay.
Oh, everyone
everybody
pays.
else.
Does anybody have any
Do
money
we
on
want to
this?
go a winner gets $100?
So we don't have
Yeah.
to put in.
That's less than $20 each.
Still doesn't commit.
Does anybody have any money
Good
on
to
this series,
know.
by the way? Has anybody bet?
We just did, yeah.
No, I mean besides for this bet.
No.
Outside of this bet, no.
So for our listeners, like I said, if you can't tell, we're all very giddy. Again, we're all just like a little bit of time away from going over to watch this game, and we're having a few beers, and it's very, very exciting. And I've talked about this before with sports. This period that we've been in since Saturday when we won the Eastern Conference Championship, I call it like buying a lottery ticket. Because the thing about buying a lottery ticket is not necessarily winning it, because you're not going to win the fucking lottery. But for that week before they announce the numbers, you get to daydream about how amazing your life could be if you did win it. We're in that sweet period as sports fans right now where the Raptors have not lost. They also haven't won, but they haven't lost. So anything is possible at this exact moment, and in a couple hours, we will have some answers.
Ain't that life though? Just
Yeah.
like the build up.
It's
So
true.
to the
It's I always
exciting
saying
thing.
it's
For
like
listeners,
Christmas.
Max
Yeah.
almost just fell off his chair sitting down, and now he's getting
Ain't that life?
philosophical. How many drinks did you have on this walk today?
No, this is my first one.
But I was saying it was like Christmas in the sense that
Yeah.
you want it to get there as soon as possible, but you don't want it to be over.
Yeah.
So after this game 1, we're going to kind of know the trajectory, and that's either going to be very, very bad or we're going to be back in this magical period
kinda
again.
like basking
if the Raps
in, like,
win,
the
we're
cr-
still basking in the glow.
Yeah, but right now it's like the Christmas season. We haven't actually reached the day yet, but everybody's in a good mood because it's like there's holiday parties and stuff.
Yeah, you can hear jingle bells on the radio.
No,
Kinda
today's
vibe,
Christmas Day.
Today's Christmas
And it's
Day?
there's a little cloud that could come over.
Maybe this is more like Hanukkah because Hanukkah's like 7
Could
days.
be more
There's
days.
more days.
But we don't
or
know yet.
Ramadan.
Maybe
Is
it's
that
actually
the
like
or is that
Labor
different
Day.
kind of thing.
It's like
Because you can't wear white
Labor
hats.
Day has that weird feeling like school's tomorrow. It could be scary, kind of exciting.
Do we like Labor Day?
No,
in terms of holidays.
maybe not. I just threw it out there.
End of summer.
I hate Labor Day personally.
It gets a little. Sometimes it's
you
chilly.
are in a union.
Yeah.
Man.
All right, guys, let's move on. There's some other items in the news.
How long was that, by the way?
24 minutes.
Sick.
All right, 24. We're rolling along. Man, there's a dog running around here. There's toys going all over the place. Okay, so 2 topics. Maxie, you're the producer. What do you want to start with? Ashton Kutcher
Yeah.
or Moby?
Let's start with Moby, just because we've been meaning to talk about this for like a
We're a
week
little
and a
behind
half
on this. Yeah.
And as soon as it happened, we're like, we need an emergency pod because this is fucking hilarious. And then we just didn't get it. Well, we wanted Shane to be a part of it because I think
Yeah,
Shane,
the pressure's on. Everyone's like, I can't wait till Shane's hot take on this.
Well, you got to put your hot take in the text group.
What did I say again?
You said you believe Moby. Set it up though, Mike.
Well,
for our listeners,
you
that don't
basically shaded said that if you were Natalie Portman,
know.
I'd be.
Set up the whole thing.
So essentially the story in the Coles notes is that Moby has this book out now. I don't know what the title of his book is. If I had a paper in front of me, I'd read it, but I don't. He has this memoir out, and in this memoir, he has a bunch of sort of anecdotes about people he dated and things he did throughout his life. Lana Del Rey is in there before she was like a big star. There's some other woman, I can't remember who she was. But the controversial one is that he talks about the time he spent with Natalie Portman. So when Natalie Portman, I believe, had just turned 18 and he was like 31 or something like that.
He claims.
He's even wrong on the numbers. So she just had turned 18. She's like kind of out of high school, going into college. He was a big international electronic music superstar.
And he was just sort of broken too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So she was a fan. She'd gone to a show. His prose, like if you read the excerpts from his book, it's all like written in this really sort of embarrassing, like we held hands as we walked through, the courtyard in Cambridge or Harvard or whatever, and then we kissed under the moonlight, and then I held her in her bed, and then I left through the night. And so it's like he's remembering in a certain way, and he uses certain language like they dated. Mm-hmm. She ended up giving an interview to a publication, and she said, I don't know why he's explaining... I don't know why he's describing it like we dated. It's like I don't remember it that way. First of all, I thought he was kind of a creepier older man, and I don't know why also his like publisher didn't fact check with me. All it took was like a call, and I think what she's getting at is he's using this shit to sell his book.
Well, that's very humble of Natalie Portman too. I don't know why Moby would think like to brag about dating me.
Well, this is the other thing he says in his prose. He does that like that self-deprecation thing where he's like she was an 18-year-old movie star, or he called her 19 or 20 at the time. He
called her 20. Yeah.
She was a 20-year-old movie star, and I was like a balding 31-year-old alcoholic or something. Like he's like being self-deprecating.
Balding? He's always been just flat out bald. When did he have more than 2 Homer Simpson hairs on his head?
So he kind of describes it in obviously his recollection of events. She says, listen, we never dated. I hung out with him like a few times, whatever. Like, I don't get why we'd say that if they just fact-checked. I think she feels in a lot of ways he's clearly using this to sell his book. That's why they released those excerpts ahead of the book release, because they want to generate a news cycle. This is where he looks like a total fucking idiot, because it's like you kind of take the loss if you're him. You go, okay, she's saying that I'm a bit of a creep and that she doesn't remember it this way. Sorry that you feel this way, Natalie. Buy my book, whatever the fuck he wants to do. He then...
Well, he doubles down.
He doubles down. He goes on his Instagram and he's like, I don't know why she would like misrepresent the truth. I have proof. He posts a photo of him shirtless and like backstage, and her like kind of got this cringy thing, like she's smiling and he's got his arm around her.
But how did you describe it, Shane? What was happening in that photo?
Oh, I understand his logic because he's shirtless. She looks fairly okay with a shirtless dude having his arm around her. Like she looks like complicit in the act. But you could also think because her hands are cut off below the waist that she could be hand jobbing him. I understood.
Because Moby's, if you got to check out the photo, but he has a look on his face that he's like, I'm getting a hand job. He's
Oh
like,
yeah, and what you said, just to throw you under the bus,
What did I
that's
say?
what we're doing. You said that's the face I make when I'm.
Oh, is that what I said?
When I'm orgasming. But do you know what Moby's book is called?
What's it called?
Moby's Dick.
Okay. You need like that blowhorn that they play at rave. So the funny thing,
And then in the text script, we had some hashtags free Moby.
outrageous. And here's the other thing that bothers me is in his Instagram defense of himself, he does that thing where he's like, when I said this thing in my book, title of the book, I did this. So he says the title like
Still pimping it, yeah.
it's outrageous. Like it's like anyway, and I think that a lot of the issues that people have is he sort of presents himself as like a feminist or like an ally, this sort of like soft vegan, and then it's like he just ends up being as much of a creep and a misogynist and sort of an entitled person himself, and he lacks a self-awareness. Since then, in a couple like think pieces in different publications, he's now totally backtracked and just basically said sorry.
Yeah.
Well, it's super embarrassing. Even if he's right,
Yeah.
it's embarrassing to present proof at any time, even if you're 100% telling the truth.
Yeah.
It's like, one, why are you even bragging about having sex or holding hands with a girl? You seem like a loser.
Yeah.
And the fact that she is so young just makes it way worse and creepier, right? Like
Totally.
Yeah, the Moby case study is so interesting. There was a great podcast, Jonathan Goldstein, who's a great Canadian comedian, writer. He does stuff for This American Life, and he has a podcast the podcast is called Heavyweight, and basically
I love that.
And there's a whole episode, but did you listen to the Moby one?
Yes. It makes Moby seem like a dick too there.
Yeah, but also...
That one's amazing.
Yeah, so the crux of the episode is that Moby was kind of a drunken, broke New York City artists back in the 90s. The friend who's interviewed for this podcast says, I gave Moby a collection of my CDs, and I let him stay at my place. He came to family events with me, and he ended up using some of those CDs, which are old
the
field.
CDs had like, ooh,
Yeah, the old field
Lordy,
recordings,
heaven
and that ended up making his big record play that went on to sell 30 million copies. And Moby never returned the CDs or thanked him.
Acknowledged
It was
Acknowledged
the
it.
most profitable album of all time.
Yeah, it was
Commercial
literally
sales.
in every single commercial. Moby literally went from a drunk broke person to maybe dating Natalie
Moby has the
Portman.
most profitable
Allegedly.
album of
Allegedly.
all time.
Yeah, for commercial use.
Every-
not the album sales, but actually
okay.
used in
Every
publishing commercials.
single song was licensed to a commercial.
Wow.
Which never happened before.
Which never happened before. So anyway, the whole podcast is really funny and entertaining. But you get because eventually Moby meets up with this old friend and they confront each other.
Well,
about what
Moby's
happened.
recollection of that record exchange was that they made love under the stars.
So anyway, I think it's really interesting because Moby's lived such a weird life because again, his success came much later, and he was formed as a guy from a single mom, had issues with drugs and alcohol, and then became a really rich guy hanging out with Aerosmith and Natalie Portman. So it's just like that kind of career.
And he
life
did,
arc.
and he did it all with no hair.
He did all with no hair. But my question for you guys is are there any incidences like within your life where there's a discrepancy like between you and your brother, but
Sure.
the way something happened, or you and a former girlfriend or family member?
Well, anytime, I think everyone's been in the situation where maybe you've bumped into a celebrity for 2 minutes, and then in the morning the story is, guess who hung out with Jason Schwartzman all night? Maybe not. No, has that never happened to you guys where you've exaggerated the importance of what you did with someone?
At one point, Greg and I both claimed we dated Natalie Portman, and no one believed us at all. Actually, ever at any
Back
point.
in Hamilton, Ontario?
Yeah. No, I mean, not that I can think of. But see, maybe I'm delusional, and this comes to the sort of back to or sort of presents the idea of an unreliable narrator, or the way you perceive events might be different than the way the other person perceives events.
This is the problem with testimonies in court, by the way,
Of
too,
course.
because whenever anybody tries to recall something that happened, there's so many studies about how people's memories are just faulty all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So ultimately, to Shane's point, if you talk about hanging out with Jason Schwartzman was like, no, that guy kept looking at me in an elevator, or he ran into me at a restaurant or whatever. The question would be, Shane, do you know the truth, but then you present it a certain way, or
Yeah.
do you believe your version of the truth of what you're
Well,
presenting?
with the celebrity, I want to make the story as good as possible. So I know the
embellish.
truth that I kind of I said hi to him for about a minute and a half, but in celebrity time, that's hanging out pretty much because it was more than a selfie. I actually talked to him and said maybe 10 sentences to him, which was a very long time for me to hang with a celebrity.
It's a famous selfie too.
So-
He's shirtless, and you're giving him a hand job.
But
All in the frame.
In relating to Tinder world, I found when I was going on a lot of dates, if I was hotter than the girl,
Earmuffs, Alex.
if I was better looking than the girl, she kind of would think maybe we were dating, and if the girl was better looking than me, I would think we were engaged, and she would be like, I made a horrible mistake last night, and that's just kind of Mike. You remember after I went on the first date with Alex, I had breakfast with you. I was like, man, imagine we got married and had kids, and I was so excited because Alex was so much out of my league. I was just exaggerating it to the
you were on
nth
one.
degree.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was delusional, but luckily, and I
And
know
every
this.
time the server kept coming around, he was telling another salacious detail of what happened that night. But it was the most it was just every time she walked by, he happened to be saying something that you can't really repeat, and then she'd give us a look, and then we just both shrug and start explode laughing.
Go back to your eggs.
Yeah.
Well, another thing that happens often is if there's a story that's famous in your mind about something that happened in your life, and you tell it all the time, and then details begin to get embellished. So, you have a story that you like to tell about you going to Europe after Danica dumped you and just abstaining on yogurt and water.
That's an accurate story, though.
No, I know, but I wonder if there's parts of the story that have been embellished or emphasized, or
over
parts
time.
that you forgot that were also important, or just a detail that you've actually ended up making up. Because I bring this up because Brian Williams famously was canceled because he had a story that he loved to tell about him going to the Iraq War. This is Brian Williams, the American NBC announcer, about him going to
Father of Allison Williams, star of Girls.
exactly, who
Former girlfriend of mine.
Marnie from Girls?
Yeah.
Her dad was.
That's her dad?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Never knew.
Yeah, you'll see the resemblance now.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, there's a story about
That's why I'm always so horny for Brian Williams.
so basically, he's like tells a story about him getting shot at in a helicopter in Iraq when he was reporting for NBC, and it turns out none of it was really true. But each time he told the story, he got a little bit more and more embellished.
The last time he's in army fatigues, he's got 2 fucking machine guns. Yeah.
Then I killed Osama bin Laden.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there is like the truth. Here's my question though. It's like people embellish. Some people, if you're an entertainer or a good storyteller, you're going to accentuate the parts that are the most entertaining.
If you're not doing that, you're not doing it right.
Agreed. My question though is more like I know when I'm like leaning into a part that is 100% true, but maybe like I'll pump it up or I'll make it a more feature of the story. My question is, does Brian Wilson or Brian Wilson, Brian Williams, does he believe the lie? That's what I'm always interested in.
I think he did. I read a book, and he was saying he actually
He
believed
remembers
it.
it happening that way. So, like, if you were to put Moby on a lie detector, he may very well pass. And if you put Natalie Portman on a lie detector, I believe she would 100%
Actually,
pass.
Gladwell has a whole episode on his podcast, Revisionist History, about Brian Williams specifically and how the memory plays tricks on you.
Yeah. Do you have a recollection though? I feel like you must have one because you asked us.
Oh no!
Like something where that you remember a certain way, and someone said Max.
No,
didn't go down
because I've read enough about how faulty the memory is. I just say I don't remember anything. Anybody could tell me this is what happened. I go, nah, you're probably right.
And both things.
Like, honestly, I will agree with because if anybody has a different version, I'm like, you're probably right. I don't know who knows anything anymore unless there's like audio or video evidence. Then who knows?
But both things can be true, right? Like Moby can think, I consider this dating.
I went on 3 dates with her or whatever.
Or we're hanging out, we're kind of dating, even though we haven't had intercourse or whatever. And Natalie Portman can be like, hey, we're just kind of hanging out and I'm flirting with you. Right? Like, that can be a situation where people
Two truths. It depends your perspective.
Well, there is
Exactly.
actually, you know what's funny? There is certain things, and now that you bring this up, there's certain things revolving around the band where people have told me, they're like, I saw you guys open for Aerosmith in Cranbrook, British Columbia, and that show blew me away.
I heard about that show.
No, well then I go, it's actually with the Tragically Hip, I think is what you're thinking. And I can, this person just got 2 arena shows in Cranbrook, British Columbia confused. They're like, no. It was Aerosmith, buddy. It was the best show. You guys opened, and then what is his name?
Tyler,
not Stephen Page. Steven Tyler came on stage and rocked it, and we hung out after it. I'm like, we've never played with Aerosmith ever before. This happens all the time. No, eventually I just go, okay, cool, whatever. I'm not going to battle them.
But you can trust your memory that you've never played
I just
with
know
them.
that we've never played with Aerosmith. Like, and they're like, you definitely played with Aerosmith.
And they would pass a lie
like
detector
that's a
test.
fact that I could, validate.
Yeah.
And another thing that I feel like happens sometimes is with people that I went to McMaster with, they have a funny memory of Arkel's events, or we were called Charlemagne back then, where it's like, like a guy, for instance, who like played piano with us for like when I was in first year, and we like had one jam in the student lounge or whatever. Like he has gone on to tell his friends that he was in the Arkels. You know what I mean? Like,
of course.
And then I think I'm like, oh yeah, I think we maybe jammed one time for half an hour, but like that's a story that he kind of dines out on, and maybe he believes it should be true. He's like, oh yeah, I was a member of that band.
Could you be forgetting a couple extra practices?
I could have. Maybe I might be forgetting a couple extra practices, but the idea that like it's grown in his mind to like.
He's Pete Best all of a sudden?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
When really that was not the case at all. And also, I even feel like there's like former girls I had crushes on. I wonder if there's like, we dated kind of thing. I feel like I've heard that like from this is like years and years ago, where I'm like, we definitely didn't, but only because the band has grown and has some celebrity. Is people like build these narratives in their mind? Of
I dated Max Kerman.
Yeah, of how they're connected with us.
Sure.
Yeah. So I just find that to be interesting.
It is interesting. Yeah. It is interesting, and I think there's like we talked about this. There's a duality to truth and the way you perceive it. And one person's truth is a different person. It's a lie to somebody else. And sometimes it's in the middle. Sometimes people are pathological and they are making bullshit up. But
it's all about the power dynamic, though.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, speaking of the power dynamic, actually, the Moby thing is really interesting because on one hand, Moby is a white cis dude. So in the hierarchy structure, he's at the top. But on the other hand, dude was probably like a very insecure bald dude who had a drinking problem, who, when he got to hang out with Natalie Portman, he may have thought the dynamic was like, this person is a fucking movie star. She's way more beautiful. She goes to Harvard. She's so much more accomplished than me.
But he was at the peak of his powers at
I
that
know-
point.
I-
It was the
But
line
it's
was a
still
lot
hard to
closer.
shake that
Yeah.
feeling.
Oh,
though,
the
you know?
beauty is undeniable.
The beauty is undeniable, and also, even though he's at the peak of his powers, he's also has a lifetime of baggage that, and this is not to excuse any of his bad behavior, but it's just an interesting, I don't know, it's a complicated thing when it comes to
And
like this.
do we think his behavior was bad though? Like we have, I know a guy who likes dating younger.
Well, his
women.
behavior was bad in as much that he, like, it seems like he was using it to sell a book, which is
that's the
that
problem.
behavior. Right.
That's the
It's
worst problem. Like the way he seemed to treat her was like,
bragging isn't very classy.
Well, not only
Yeah.
that, but here's where he fucked up. So he remembers things a certain way. She remembers things a different way. They clearly spent a couple days together. If she was like, I'm just hanging out with this guy that I think is cool, that's famous, and I like his music, and he's like, holy shit, Natalie Portman wants to date me, and you know they're both, you know what I mean, like misperceiving what the other one wants. That happens sometimes. The issue for me, where he looks like a fucking moron, is the minute she says, "Listen, like nobody checked this with me. I didn't date the guy. Like I was a fan when I was just out of high school, and I went to a couple shows. We hung out a couple times. That's the story." What happens there if you're Moby is you go, "Shit, you know what? My bad. I should have had my publisher check with you. I fucked up. All the best to you in the future, Natalie. Sorry to bring you to the book if you didn't want to be a part of it." That's that. That's how you play that.
That's really where he fucked up.
That's where he fucked up. Because then it's like in the light of day after that, he's like, she's misremembering or she's a liar. And it's like, what?
Yeah. Probably like 3 or 4 years ago, I was in LA doing band stuff, and I was at a house party, and a girl that works with Moby I was like, what's that like? And he's like, well, you know, he was like an ugly bald guy for half his life, and then all of a sudden he became a multimillionaire. So he gets around a bit. Like that was like her anecdote.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's yeah. Anyway, I've always thought about Moby in an interesting context because it wasn't like he was a child star or somebody who had to come very easy or came from money. He didn't come from.
This guy that won the lottery in his 30s.
Yeah. Anyway, she's like, yeah, he's definitely. We talk about this a lot on this podcast about when a celebrity becomes a celebrity and what age that is and how formed they are.
How it shapes the way they interact with other people,
Yeah.
how they perceive themselves, like if they actually have like a sort of sense of humility or if they actually buy their own hype and believe their shit. You know what I mean?
And also, like, I always find Mark Maron to be an interesting case study as well because Maron is a guy who kind of struggled in comedy for, you know, from the age of 18 to
45.
To 45.
He was ostensibly a failure for 45 years.
Yeah, and so he has all of that trauma in him, and he's in that anger, and he talks about this a lot, and things he cannot get over, things that did not work out for him. But now, from the age of 45 to 51
Wildly
or whatever,
successful.
yeah, everyone's like, "You're fucking Mark Maron. You are the top of the castle here."
He was nominated for like a Golden Globe. He was nominated for something for the wrestling one.
Oh yeah,
With
Glow.
Glow.
Yeah.
He was nominated for like a major award for Glow. Like what a crazy leap.
Yeah, what a crazy leap. But the funny thing is, despite his fame, he's not going, guys, this is the best. He's going, you talked to Lorne Michaels? What's Lorne like?
He's still holding on to that.
Because he got denied from SNL, and all he wants to talk about with any guest that was on SNL, what's Lorne Michaels like? Because I met him once in 1992, and he didn't like my audition, and fuck Lorne Michaels. That's basically the tone of it all. The way... Yeah, people's life experiences, you know, shape them for such a long time.
I don't think Moby ever got cocky, though, in his defense. I think he was always just as insecure, and he was like, oh, my God, I'm dating Natalie Portman. And I think that's the way he actually felt.
Here's the issue: is Moby? It's like Fred Durst, let's say, is going to act a certain way because he presents a certain way. So you go, okay, he's going to want to like bang groupies, do whatever he does. Moby, to what Max just said, that story about doing some of this, like, oh, he gets around. It's like Moby presents as this vegan sort of like ally
guy.
friend to women, but it's like no, he's also out there trying to get laid, like
And eating hamburgers.
that's the lie too.
You phony vegan. You presented yourself falsely.
He's
In and
crushing
out all
Big
the
Macs.
time.
Yeah, in and out and threesomes all the time. It's like Moby isn't who he says he is. I think that might be sort of the thing that feels disingenuous. It's like oh, okay, it's like, you know, if he's out there acting like Fred Durst, you would imagine Fred Durst, and I don't know what the fuck Fred Durst gets up to, but I'm just saying it's like I think that's the disconnect. It's like Moby presents as like this like Zen dude that's like very like, you know.
You know, this is not really related, but I just want to throw it out there. Timothy Oliphant was just on Conan, and he was also just on Mark Maron. And that dude is the most charming interview guest I've ever heard. I
heard he's super loose. He's
tens of
laid
thousands
back.
of hours of interviews.
He can
podcasts.
border on annoying at times. But
No,
yeah.
I disagree. He is always the
I said
most
at
charming
times.
to like.
Maybe the one you saw was
why,
good.
why do you think he's annoying?
Because I've seen him annoying at times.
Did
You,
listen-
you saw a good one.
Do you listen to the Mark Maron one?
No.
Did you listen to the Conan one?
No.
Oh, they're both fucking
'Cause
awesome.
I- when I see
by the way,
his-
he doesn't do anything special.
I saw a
think he's
tweet
cool.
that said he has no fucks to give. Like basically, he just goes in there and he just lets.
Sometimes
it
he
loose.
thinks he's funny, though.
I think he's fucking hilarious.
Well, he had a good
versions
run.
of the truth
Yeah,
right here.
exactly.
Two versions of the
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a good moment. Okay, I'm not going to.
Erica, Moby, hot or not?
Not.
All right, let's get on to the next one.
Okay, so our last topic of the day is this fascinatingly bizarre story for a few reasons, but mostly because I'd never heard of this story. So I saw on Twitter in sort of the trending topics, actor Ashton Kutcher, testified in the trial of the Hollywood Ripper case. So there's this like serial killer in Hollywood, and in 2001, I guess Ashton Kutcher was dating a girl, although who knows these days, and she was murdered by this guy that was like a serial killer, this Hollywood Ripper or whatever. And the way the story goes is that Ashton, who had been seeing this girl, had called her. It was like a Sunday night, I'm guessing, and he talked to her. He was the last one to talk to her. They made plans to go out for a date that night. So Ashton talked to her at like 6 o'clock. He was going to pick her up at like 10 or something like that. They get off the phone. Ashton goes to the house for the date, knocks on the door. No one answers. Knocks again. No one answers. Looks in. Sees that what looks like is spilled red wine. He thought it was spilled red wine on the carpet. Keeps it moving. Said he went to his buddy's house and they watched the Grammys, I believe. So they kind of just chilled. And he goes, it wasn't like unusual that I thought she bailed on the night. And the red wine wasn't weird because she just had a party like the week before and it was like a frat party. It got wild. So this wasn't out. It didn't trigger anything for him or any alarms. A couple days later, her roommate, I guess, comes home and she has been stabbed, I believe, 47 times. So she's been murdered.
It's called overkill.
Shane, somebody passed away.
No, is what it. I wasn't even trying to make like a Moby's dick type of joke. It is called overkill. It is. That I swear. We're
gonna fact check.
Fact check that. Yeah. So she passed away. Ashton had this. Ashton had to freak out because they contacted him. He's like, oh my God. He thought that they were going to suspect him because he knew he was the last person to go to the house. And apparently the murder took place in between the call and then obviously him showing up to the place. But he tried to open the door, I guess. He thought it was unlocked. It wasn't. So he was like, oh, my prints are going to be the thing. So there's this photo of him testifying yesterday at this trial. Again, this murder happened in 2001. So we're going back like almost 20 years. And had any of you guys heard about this case?
I had never heard
Nope.
of it.
And so I don't know why it took so long to do this. I don't know if it took a long time to catch this guy. But anyway, he'd killed a couple other people apparently. But anyway, fascinating stuff. How do you think this flew under the radar? Is it just that like 2001 was a different
Too
time?
many news stories, man.
Yeah?
Yeah. What do you think? Ashton, hot or not?
Which version of Ashton?
Well, he has a mustache. Have you seen his mustache?
Oh, I saw him testifying to
With
the
a
court of
mustache.
law. Very hot.
Yeah.
In a suit, in a mustache. I was
It
about
looked
it.
like he was in a movie testifying.
It looked like a still from a film.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, that's such a. I find this kind of thing interesting because Ashton Kutcher, and when it comes to life experiences, this is what we were talking about this a bit last night, Mike.
Yeah.
When it comes to life experiences, this guy has experienced so many fucking crazy things, like by virtue of him knowing many people.
Like what? Tell me. I don't know much about him other than he was on that 70s show.
Well, just his lifestyle. He's a very wealthy person who is a famous person.
Okay,
He's
so
probably been.
He was married to Demi Moore.
He was married to Demi Moore. Now he was dating Mila Kunis, I think.
No,
married now.
they're
Yeah.
together.
They're
They're
married.
married
He
together.
has
They're
got
married.
kids with
No,
him.
but wasn't
dated
they
during that
dated?
70s show,
Then he
broke
married
up,
Demi
yeah.
Moore. Then he.
They never dated during that.
Oh, they never
70s
did.
show.
Okay,
No.
They dated on the show.
But her
but
first
they
kiss
did.
ever was with him on screen.
No, but
Yeah,
they
I
dated
know,
when
but
they were
that-
teenagers.
No, they didn't.
And they came back together. That's their story.
Get out.
Yeah,
I
read
listened
it.
to a podcast with her on Dak Shepard's Armchair Expert.
Hey, man, her truth versus his.
Yeah.
I had heard that the way that she told it when they got back together was it's like, oh, maybe they'd known each other. Doesn't
They've
matter.
known each other.
Right.
They dated on that 70s show. And then
Okay.
at an award show
My
for the
point-
Golden Globes, they got kind of drunk and made eyes and hooked up.
Okay, my point is that this guy has experienced crazy shit. Also, he's gone on to do crazy things in Silicon Valley. He's like a investment guy for IT companies and stuff like that. He's a smart dude too.
He went to school for astrophysics.
Yeah, he's a very
Oh.
yeah, really smart guy. And so anyway, if you're a dude who was in one of the most successful sitcoms and you live in LA, like who knows what kind of crazy life experiences you've had? Like there's probably 500 things that he's done that we've never even heard of.
He's forgotten more life experience. Like, he's forgotten more extraordinary moments than most people ever have.
The
in their
most
life.
successful prank show of all time is Punk.
Oh, it's Punk. Yeah, like I forgot about
God,
Punk.
And that's an afterthought.
Yeah,
Okay.
Punked was dope.
So here's my question: anybody else who finds out that the girl they're seeing is murdered and stabbed 47 times, that will become a defining life experience for that
Yeah.
person, and it'll probably haunt them to a degree and stay with them for many years. Is it different for somebody who's living Ashton Kutcher's life? Or is it because so much crazy shit's going on that you're like, oh, that was the thing that happened, but now 19 other crazy things have happened to me. What does anything mean anymore? Like, sometimes I think about the singer Brandy. Do you guys remember Brandy?
Of
She was a
course,
big crush
the
on me.
girl is
The
mine.
Boy's
Boy's mine.
Boy's
yeah.
Mine, and she obviously was a big star in the mid '90s.
You preferred Brandy over Monica.
I did. Yeah,
You're
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, I love Brandy.
Two different truths.
Yeah, that's what this episode's called for sure. Though
Two different truths.
she committed manslaughter. Like she
Yeah.
hit
Brandy?
somebody.
Vehicular,
Brandy,
wasn't it?
Oh,
yeah,
vehicular
vehicular.
doesn't
Vehicular.
count.
No, but
Yeah,
here's
it
the thing:
does,
if any of
bro.
us, anybody we
But
know,
carrying the weight of causing another human being to expire, I
Yeah,
can't imagine.
Caitlyn Jenner did it. Rebecca
I'm
Gayheart
just, okay,
did
but
it.
here's and this obviously there are different degrees of obviously Ashton Kutcher didn't kill anybody, but I'm just saying that's like
Yet.
that
There's one last thing I have yet to experience in this extraordinary life.
it's murder.
to know what it feels to have someone expire at the hands of my. Yeah.
But the question remains: do you think you feel things less?
Yes.
If you have experienced so many extra things that most people don't
Yeah.
experience.
Yes, I do. I actually had a conversation with a friend recently about how in high school, because I have a lot of siblings in high school, they go through some stuff. I feel like I felt emotions so much more intensely when I was like 15, 16, and probably because I just felt them less. Like really crazy good times. I was like, this is the best day of my whole entire life. And then like sadness and like, oh, heartbreak. I was like,
But 0 to 10 don't count, and then it's 10 to 15. So it's probably realistic that it was the best day of your entire life because your life was so
up
short.
until that point. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And
Yeah,
I had
no, but
experienced so
I mean,
many
that's a
less
slightly different thing that
things.
we're talking about. Like, I mean, I think high
Oh.
school emotions are just strong,
Wild, man.
are wild, strong emotions. I'm saying more as like, as an adult, do you think Ashton Kutcher? Let's keep it in Ashton Kutcher world. Yeah, feels differently about that incident that happened in 2001 than most of us would feel about an incident that happened in
Because
2001.
you're saying
Assuming we're the same age.
so much information goes into his memory card. let's
Yeah,
say, his
and so many
brain.
wild experiences, good and bad. You know, he was probably friends with Heath Ledger for like he probably has like seen the highest of the highs and the lowest of the
You're
lows.
saying the swings have been so wild in his life. Does this register as a seminal moment in his life, or life-defining sort of tragedy, or is it just another in a long line of
crazy
bizarre
shit
things
that
that
has
happen
happened,
in his
yeah.
life? It's a good question. You'd have to ask him, but I mean, I would think that it wouldn't be odd if he said, "Yeah, I don't know. Like,
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he was just like, yeah, that was a crazy thing that happened. I was dating lots of chicks back then.
And then he's like, oh, and I also played Steve Jobs in a movie.
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Like,
But
Yeah.
anybody else, if one of like our uncles was like, oh yeah, then my uncle found his girlfriend.
that would
dead
be the
47
story he tells for the
of
rest
his
of his
fucking
life.
life. Yeah. Anyway, I always find that interesting to see the way celebrities contextualize things that happen to them, especially celebrities that have been very famous for a long time. Yeah.
yeah." I wonder too about people's ability to like how much do you really feel the loss or like the death of somebody? You know, it's like people die a lot. Celebrities die, right? And then you go, oh, like Prince, like he meant so much, and then you go about your day. You know what I mean? He obviously knew this woman. He was intimate with this woman by all accounts. And it's like, but then is he like, well, I didn't know her that well, and it's a tragedy. But like, does he lose sleep over it? I don't know. And is that specific to him? Because like you said, he's had so many experiences that there's just another thing in his, like, you know, his life book. Or do you think that most people kind of move on from experiences like this? I guess everybody's different is the
Yeah,
answer.
yeah,
It's like
everybody's
people are
different.
going to feel things super intensely.
I guess, yeah, what I would be interested is I'd love to ask really famous people on that Ashton Kutcher level because he is probably an A to A plus list celebrity. at
Was,
this
yeah,
point.
for sure.
At least he was, but
Yeah.
Probably a B- right now.
yeah, whatever it is. But I'd love to ask him, it's like, what is the thing that grates you the most? And there should be a really fascinating thing to go through. And I bet you a lot of people would say something to do with...
He's like assholes talking about me on a podcast when I'm trying to testify.
He probably wouldn't give a shit about that because can you
Exactly.
imagine like how much tabloid shit he's been a part of? I'd say most people would probably do something with like childhood upbringing stuff. That is probably the most painful. But I'd also be interested to know like what relationships or the falling apart of a relationship or somebody dying fucked them up the most.
Yeah, the one where she got murdered after the first date, probably.
That might be
Out of
number
all
one.
your relationships, that was the worst one. The murder one.